Hey folks, welcome back to Grand Adventure. I'm your host, Mark Guido, and in this episode, we're out in the deserts of Southern California on our way to Joshua Tree National Park, so stay tuned. Now we're crossing the Colorado Desert, a subset of the Sonoran Desert, on our way from southern Arizona to Joshua Tree. Right now we're in a place called Desert Center, so named by Desert Steve, who I'll explain in a moment, but this is more like the center of nowhere. The only business left standing in Desert Center is the post office. Desert Steve was an itinerant preacher from Arkansas originally. He got stuck out here in the sand on his way to Los Angeles in the 1920s, ended up buying out the guy who rescued him, and created Desert Center by opening up a small automobile repair garage out here in the middle of nowhere. Now we're at the site of Desert Steve's cabin. This is really much all that's left of it, kind of like his businesses out here, which at one time included a cafe and a whole bunch of, a gas station where they pumped gas by hand from 55-gallon drums. His family stuck around long after he self-exiled from this area in the 1950s, after it was kind of reported he was messing around with an office worker. But very colorful history to this part of the desert. Desert Steve is buried in the Coachella Valley. But before he exiled himself from Desert Center, he dug his own gravesite and even mounted an epitaph to himself on a nearby rock wall. Without any water, about the only thing you're going to farm in this part of the southeastern California desert is solar. However, there's a lot to see out here that's left over from the U.S. military's training to ready itself for the North African campaign in World War II. Strangely enough, a tiny clinic out here also gave birth to the giant Kaiser Permanente healthcare. We're here to camp, after all, so let's get on to our campsite within Joshua Tree National Park. Now, normally I don't camp within a national park campground. However, the sights in Jumbo Rocks were just too gorgeous to ignore, and when I was able to get a spot, it was definitely a keeper. Now this is dry camping for $15 a night. There is no water available here in Jumbo Rocks, but there is water available along with the dump station elsewhere in the park. So this is kind of fun. A couple of my friends, Tony and Liz, are coming out from the Los Angeles area to join us for the night. The Cholla Cactus Garden within Joshua Tree is the densest collection of this beautiful but painful cactus that I've ever seen. Also known as jumping cactus, one only needs to brush by the cholla to make these thorn-filled pods break off and stick right to you. So we've really enjoyed our stay here within the national park. However, at the last minute, I could only get 2 nights here in Jumbo Rocks, so we have to move today anyway. Think I'm going to grab the dogs and head out and find some boondocking on BLM land to complete our stay in the Joshua Tree, Palm Springs area. So the boondocking idea for the next couple of nights didn't quite work out. We're under a Santa Ana wind warning here in the deserts of Southern California. They're talking about wind gusts of 35, 45, up to even 60 miles an hour. And unfortunately, the one area where I was thinking about boondocking on BLM land is incredibly exposed to that wind, and I really wasn't in the mood to have to deal with that for 2 days. So, picked a spot here in the Catalina Spa RV Park, Catalina Spa RV Resort, and that is in Desert Hot Springs, which is just north of Palm Springs. Now, they actually do have hot mineral pools here on site, and they're quite beautiful. It's $45 a night. Although, surprisingly, the Good CM discount is a whopping 50%. So I'm paying $22.50 a night to stay here with full hookups, which is an absolute bargain indeed. The facilities have been great. The staff even greater. The staff has been absolutely a peach to work with. Great place to spend a couple of days. Now, one of the top tourist attractions here in the Palm Springs area is the Palm Springs Aerial Tramway. Let's go take a ride. One of the steepest ropeways in the world, the Palm Springs Aerial Tramway rises nearly 6,000 vertical feet in only 2.5 miles. Tickets cost $26, and they also charge a parking fee. Dog owners should be aware that they don't allow you to leave your pets in your vehicle in the parking lot, regardless of the temperature. Tram's cabins are the only ones in the Western Hemisphere that rotate as they travel. Perfect for viewing, but absolute hell for shooting video.
There's a total of 27 miles of various sized cables.
The tram climbs through 5 climate zones as it ascends a shoulder of San Jacinto Peak, and the ponderosa pine forest surrounding the summit station is dramatically different than the desert landscape of Palm Springs below. The mountain station features a full-service bar and 2 restaurants, one cafeteria style and the other sit-down. Now, one other thing that I had to see for myself while I'm out in the Southern California desert is the Salton Sea. At 330 square miles, this saline lake is the largest lake in the state of California. However, it's here entirely by accident. Over the millennia, silt carried by the Colorado River formed a delta where it enters the Gulf of California. That created a barrier that, quite frankly, is the only thing that keeps the Gulf of California from flooding this entire area, the Imperial Valley. I'd be standing in the middle of the Gulf of California if not for that. Anyway, this has been alternately a freshwater lake, a saline lake, or a dry lake bed over the years, with scientists estimating it takes 400 or 500 years for each cycle to go through. Now, in the late 1800s, this was a dry lake bed, and it still would be today, were it not for a mistake from some California water engineers in the early 1900s. They were building canals to try and divert some of the Colorado River's flow into this area for agriculture, and heavy runoff and heavy rainfall caused those canals to breach. For a period of almost 2 years, the Colorado River almost entirely flowed here into this dry lake bed and created what is now this 350 square mile lake. Now, right now, due to evaporation, due to lower amounts of runoff and the heat out here in the desert, this lake is actually shrinking. As a result, it's becoming more saline. It's also becoming more polluted with agricultural runoff and PCBs. About the only thing that survives right now in this lake with the high pollution and the high salinity levels are tilapia. However, because of this high saline and a lack of oxygen, there are large fish kills where huge amounts of fish wash right up onto the beach and rot, creating an indescribable stench. Because of that, resorts that were founded to be built on this lake in the 1950s pretty much just dried up and blew away in the desert dust. What you're seeing behind me over here, these were supposed to be residential waterfront streets with canals behind each home in Desert Shores, California. Now, it's just a fenced-off wasteland. about the only things that thrive near the Salton Sea are palm trees, and accordingly, this is a productive area for growing dates. There's only one more thing in the Coachella Valley that I want to do, and it has nothing to do with gambling. It's an all-you-can-eat lobster and seafood buffet. This is only round one. So we're back on the road this morning. I'm going to pop into Starbucks for a little bit of Wi-Fi love, and after that, we're going to head to the Mojave National Preserve out in the Mojave Desert of Eastern California. So if you'd like to come along with us, make sure that you're a grand adventurer, hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up down below. Also down below, you'll find the comment section. We'd always love to hear from you. Until next time, please remember, life is nothing but a grand adventure. We'll see you soon.